The town of Cold River had always been quiet and almost invisible on the map of Northern America. Its streets covered with snow and silence made it feel isolated and untouched by the world. But there was one house at the edge of the town that no one dared to enter. The Cold River house stood alone, surrounded by frozen trees and icy river flowing silently behind it. Its windows were broken and the walls were dark, like they absorbed the night. The house was different from any other house in the town, and everyone who saw it felt a chill in their chest even in daylight. The Hayes family moved to Cold River hoping for a peaceful life. Daniel Hayes, a forest officer, and his wife Martha, with their children Elena and Jacob, thought they would start fresh. They did not know that the house had chosen them. The first night inside the house was strange. The air was colder than outside, and the lights flickered with a yellow glow that seemed unnatural. Martha woke up feeling someone was standing near her bed, but when she turned there was no one. Only a shadow moved in the corner of the room slowly, and she could not tell if it was real or imagination. She did not wake her husband. She did not want to scare the children. Elena, the eldest child, 17 years old, was the first to notice things that did not belong. Jacob, 11 years old, started talking to someone who was not there. Martha noticed him standing in a corner, whispering softly with a faint smile that did not reach his eyes. When she asked him who he was talking to, he said, "He lives here, and he says the house is not ours." Martha froze, but kept quiet. Days passed and strange noises started at night. Footsteps dragging across the floors, slow and heavy, sometimes upstairs, sometimes from the basement. Daniel thought it was animals, but the snow outside showed no tracks. It was impossible. Yet the sound continued. Elena began waking up with scratches on her arms and neck. She said she saw someone in the mirror, a pale shadow that copied her movements. Slowly, Jacob whispered, constantly warning them that he is awake. Martha began keeping a diary, writing everything she saw and felt. Shadows moving behind her, whispering voices calling her name, lights turning on by themselves, cold spots on the floor. She wrote that the house was alive, that it was watching them. She wrote that she felt its presence every second, and the last entry read, "I feel the house does not want us to leave." The first scream came one night when Mrs. Whitmore, the old neighbor, heard a sound that was not human. It was sharp, terrifying, and echoed across the frozen town. She tried to move closer, but fear stopped her. She saw lights flicker violently and then silence. Martha and Daniel woke to Elena screaming from upstairs, saying, "There is something outside my room. I cannot move." Jacob whispered loudly, "He is awake." The family tried to leave the house the next morning, packing their belongings, loading the car, but as they reached the front door, it slammed shut by itself. Daniel pulled and pushed the handle, but it would not move. Something invisible held the door in place. And then the dragging footsteps came again from the basement, slow, rhythmic, deliberate. Daniel whispered, "We have to go." But the door would not open. The phone line rang. Elena managed to call the local police. She whispered frantic words, "My parents went into the basement, and they have not come back, and something is walking outside my room." The call ended abruptly with a loud thud and scream. When the police arrived, the house was empty. No parents, no children, only their footprints leading to the center of the basement and stopping as if they had vanished into the air in the backyard, and the snow was written, "The house keeps who it wants." Weeks passed, and the Cold River house became a place of fear. Locals would hear cries at night, whispers from the forest, and footsteps from the abandoned building. They swore the house was alive, that it chose who could enter and who could leave. Every night, someone dared to approach. It reported lights flickering and shadows moving without source. A young officer, Daniel Reed, decided to investigate. He had not believed the stories at first, but stepping inside the house changed everything. The air was colder than the outdoors. The lights flickered on in the same yellow glow. The living room was undisturbed, yet it felt like it was waiting for him. The suitcase of the Hayes family still lay open, and the dust of their footsteps was untouched. Reed moved cautiously toward Jacob's room, noticing a faint circle in the corner. It felt icy to touch. He heard whispers, "He is here," coming from nowhere. Elena's room revealed a cracked mirror with claw marks in the reflection. He saw a girl standing behind him, but turning around, no one was there. The figure did not match his reflection. He shivered and proceeded to the basement where the footprints had ended. The stairs creaked beneath his boots. As he descended, darkness swallowed him, and dragging footsteps circled him around. He froze as the footsteps stopped directly above him. The air pressed down like invisible hands. A whisper left the shadows, leave it said, a voice deeper, colder, older than any human. Reed asked why the answer came taken. The walls seemed to breathe, the lights flickered violently, the basement door opened slowly, and Jacob appeared, pale eyes empty. He whispered, "He wants you too." Reed tried to run, but the door slammed, temporarily trapping him. He escaped into the hallway only to see Daniel Hayes standing blocking the exit, pale, hollow, and silent behind him. Elena and Martha appeared, all with empty dark eyes. They whispered, "The house wants who it chooses," and Reed felt the pull of the house toward the basement. He ran out. Finally, the lights went dark, as if nothing had happened. The snow was smooth, as if no one had entered the town, would never see the Hayes family again. The cold river house remained alive, breathing, silent, waiting. It would take again. It would never return. What it kept Reed, and the few who survived never approached it. The house watched, the town waited for its next family. Years later, the forest around the cold river house grew thicker. The river froze earlier and stayed frozen longer. The snow in front of the house never melted, and the locals swore that some nights the windows glowed yellow and silhouettes of a family could be seen inside. They whispered about screams and footsteps, voices calling from the darkness. The house was alive, and it was hungry. Some brave souls tried to film it, recorded, understand it, but they never came back or returned. Changed, pale, empty, the cold river house had rules that could not be broken. It marked who it wanted, and it took without mercy. Parents, children, anyone who dared enter the basement vanished, and the snow around the house recorded nothing but the echoes of their last steps. Reed returned once more, determined to confront it. He stood in front of the door, lights flickered, and the air grew heavier. The shadows around the house deepened. He stepped in the hallway. The figures of the Hayes family appeared behind every corner, pale, silent, motionless. Reed tried to speak, but the house whispered louder than his voice. The house keeps who it wants. Reed ran, trying to escape the pull again, and again the lights turned yellow, as if alive, and he felt them watching every movement. The house wanted him too. No one in Cold River slept well for years. People spoke in hushed tones of shadows moving in the frozen forest, of the abandoned house, lights glowing at night, and the whispers of the lost family who disappeared into its walls. The Cold River house existed beyond human rules, alive, ancient, patient, and always choosing its next victims. It took them quiet and left only whispers in the snow and the warning: the house keeps who it wants. The story became legend, and every stranger in town asked about it, but locals would only shake their heads and say, "Stay away, the house is alive, the house waits, the house does not forget."